Why hello there everybody, Infinite Shinjo here and welcome to today's Halloween special. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm not going to be able to keep that accent up the whole video. Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here. Welcome to today's video and if all goes well, happy Halloween. I'm not sure how many people are going to be celebrating Halloween out there, but for today's video, I have a very special one for you. And I've been racking my brain thinking what I can discuss for a Halloween special, and I got just the trick. In today's episode of Animated Discussions, I am going to be comparing Interviews with Monster Girls to My Monster Secret, because both involve mythological creatures and stuff like that, and both have very similar concepts. And I watched both recently, and I wanted to find a way to discuss both while comparing them at the same time, and I figured a Halloween special is the perfect way to do that. So to start, I'm going to be explaining what each one of these shows' plots is about. To begin with, Interviews with Monster Girls is exactly what the show sounds like. Mr. Takahashi is a teacher at a school, and he finds out that the school has a couple of demi-children there. Which demi-children basically means kids that are half human but have half a mythological creature, such as vampires, Dullahan, succubus, stuff like that. And he's super interested with that, so he decides to interview them. Meanwhile, finding out how other people view the demi-children and how the demi-children get along with themselves. The idea with My Monster Secret, or actually I think it's roughly translated to, but I'll be calling it My Monster Secret to make it a little bit easier on myself. But the concept of that show is actually the entirely opposite, comparatively. In My Monster Secret, the main character, who I cannot remember his name because he's super generic, he has a crush on this girl in school, so he decides after school one day, I'm going to go into the classroom I know that she's at and basically confess to her. When he does, he finds out that she's vampire, and he basically has to keep it a secret from everybody because if he lets one person know, she's kicked out of the school. Unfortunately for everybody in the world, this main character is super bad at keeping secrets, so the whole show is basically a back and forth of, is he going to spill the beans? Is he not going to spill the beans? Meanwhile, he finds out that there are a lot more special creatures at the school than he first thought. So now that I got into the concept of each show, I'm going to go briefly over each one of the characters from each show. First, Interviews with Monster Girls. Mr. Takahashi is basically what you would expect from a teacher. He's supportive of his students. Sometimes it's hard to tell, honestly, with the way he treats them. He always likes to learn, and he's interested in learning about the demi-children. Meanwhile, there's another teacher, I cannot remember her name right now, but she's a succubus, and she doesn't want any contact with men because she's got some sort of pheromones that turns them on. It's kind of funny and kind of weird at the same time. Next, Machi is a Dullahan, and if you know anything about Dullahan, they are one part body, and their head's just floating off in the distance somewhere. I'm sure one example you can think of now is the Headless Horseman that always has a little pumpkin head tucked underneath one of his arms. Next is my favorite character of the show, Yuki, who is a snow woman, and I just love her shift from being a shy girl to breaking out of her shell, finding out how she really acts, and how funny she is, honestly. Next are the two sisters, Hikari and Kimari. Hikari is more or less the lead of the show next to Mr. Takahashi. She's a vampire, and with Hikari, she basically breaks down all these tropes that people associate with vampires, such as her needing to suck people's blood in order to survive, which is more or less a teething sort of thing for her. And realistically, next to Yuki, she probably delivers some of the best and hilarious lines in the whole show. Next is Kimari, who is Hikari's sister, who basically does everything for Hikari. You can't really tell from the picture, but she has little sort of buns on the side of her hair. That's Kimari's doing. Kimari has always been there to support Hikari, but Hikari is just more or less a baby, and she doesn't want to do things herself, which is where Kimari comes in. So since I briefly discussed the characters and interviews with Monster Girls, now I'm going to discuss the characters in My Monster Secret, which is going to go by a lot quicker because I honestly can't remember a lot of their names. Of course, I already mentioned the main character, loves the main girl, can't keep a secret. Whereas main girl, I think her name is Yoko Shiragami, I want to say. She's a vampire, and she's kind of an idiot. Then we got the blue-haired girl that's in the poster. I can't remember her name either, but she's an alien, basically. She's got a little version of herself inside of her head that basically controls the bigger version like a robot. And it's not shown in the poster, but there are also a couple of other characters, like one that changes genders when they see the moon, one that has a pair of glasses that are talking to them. The person itself is completely normal, but the glasses are talking to them. There's one that's basically Satan that runs the school, which is hilarious. And I think that is all. Correct me if I'm wrong if you've seen this show, but I think that is all. So now, I'm going to get into the comparisons between the two. And if you've been paying attention, there are a couple that I can make off the top of my head. First and foremost, both involve mythological creatures, which is obvious. Second, the lead girl in each one of the shows is a vampire. But honestly, that's really where the comparisons stop for me. That's all that I could think of off the top of my head. Because while both of them have the same concept of mythological creatures and stuff like that, they go about it different ways. In My Monster Secret, everything has to be kept a secret, and in interviews with Monster Girls, everybody's just all fine with knowing that there's a Dullahan, a snow woman, a vampire, and a succubus at the school. And also, I would argue the tone is different from each show. It has that typical school setting that you would expect from any show, but there are just moments of pure wholesomeness that is just so great. One scene I can think of off the top of my head is before Yuki undergoes her radical change to being her happy-go-lucky self, is she's waiting outside of Mr. Takahashi's office, huddled in the corner, snow all around her, and she's crying. And the main reason for that is because she's afraid that she wouldn't be able to control her snow powers and she might injure somebody, which is a very logical conclusion. The main thing that I like about interviews with Monster Girls is it shows that these girls have special powers, like Dullahan having a head detached from her body, Vampire, I guess, being able to fly. I don't think we've ever seen her fly in the show. Yuki controlling snow, and the succubus woman obviously being a succubus. But outside of that, they make it clear in the show that these girls are just like any ordinary girls. They need love, they need attention, they need friends around them. I feel like there are some undertones of equality in it, but I don't really care if there is, I don't really care if there isn't. It's just a good show. And just to make this video interesting, if I would have to give each one of these shows a rating, I would give Interviews with Monster Girls a 9.5 out of 10. It's a good show, but I want to save the 10 out of 10 rating for a show that I feel truly deserves it. Now with My Monster Secret, the concept is completely opposite. The whole concept of the main character not being able to keep a secret, but her parents find out that he knows that she's a vampire by the end of the show, and everybody's just cool with it. And obviously in the show, there has to be the main character surrounded by a group of girls, which Interviews with Monster Girls does as well, but they don't turn it into the route of making it seem like a harem. Because in Monster Secret, main character is just out minding his own business. He has feelings for a vampire lady. Meanwhile, after a couple of episodes of meeting her, alien girl has feelings for main character. Orange hair girl has feelings for main character. And it's just a whole bunch of mass confusion, and it just seems like the relationship part was just shoehorned in just to get a draw. So if I would have to give My Monster Secret a rating, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. The show's concept is interesting. Some parts of it are a little bit lackluster, but the opening really makes up for it. And actually, I didn't mention that either. Interviews with Monster Girls' opening, that song is just spectacular. I really love it. So if you need anything to watch on this spoopy Halloween night, I would recommend Interviews with Monster Girls or My Monster Secret. If I would only have to recommend one out of the two, I would recommend Interviews with Monster Girls in a heartbeat. I wanted to make a video sometime about there being a second season of the show eventually, but I haven't had enough time to compile everything in order to make my case for why there should be a second season, and I'm probably not going to be able to because I have so much other stuff on my plate. But just know, I want there to be a second season of Interviews with Monster Girls. But that is going to be it for this Halloween special on Infernape Shinjo's channel. Don't ask me why I'm talking in the third person. Make sure that if you enjoyed, to hit that like button down below and subscribe so you don't miss any of my other videos. And I've always wanted to do this in a video, but I've never remembered. But since it's safe to say that this video will be coming out on Halloween night, if you're watching this on the day that it's uploaded, I'll see you next month. And until then, Momentai.